and welcome to Market Open Direct Connect, where companies and investors get right to the point of the news that matters, what it means, and how it impacts your investment. I'm your host, Stuart Walters, and we're joined here today by Alex Hanley, the CEO of Lithium Universe, ASX code LU7. After Alex's presentation today, he'll be available for a Q&A, which can be, any questions can be submitted by the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. It's now time to introduce our guest, Alex. Alex, welcome to Direct Connect, and over to you.
Yeah, g'day, Stuart, mate. Thanks for having me. One of the biggest challenges within the North American supply chain, the lithium battery supply chain, is what we believe not the supply side or the demand coming from North America. It's something that we've coined as the lithium conversion gap. Now, as I said, the lithium conversion gap is a very simple supply and demand thesis. On the supply side, we see a very large global resource across the transatlantic region, so obviously including West Africa, also places in Brazil and South Africa, but more importantly, from a tier one jurisdiction perspective, James Bay in Quebec is obviously on the top of the list. What we see there is 8 or 9 distinct projects, cumulatively coming up to about 500 million tonne at plus 1%. So in comparison, that's about 5 or 6 times greater resource than the neighbouring Ontario province. And the reason why we like it, James Bay in particular, is that most likely this resource is going to continue to expand with about 40 companies actively exploring within James Bay region itself. So that's the supply side, right, within James Bay. From a demand perspective, we've all seen similar graphics as you can see here. In a nutshell, what we see is, or the Department of Energy have outlined about 1,000 gigawatts of battery capacity. Now, what that means from a lithium perspective is around 850,000 tonnes per annum of lithium chemicals, right? So that's in perspective-wise, Stuart, that the 2022 global lithium supply was just a touch over 800,000. So we're talking about a doubling of the 2022 just in North America itself. So big demand side coming on the right-hand side here. So currently, if there is any spodumene that's exploited or produced out of the transatlantic region or really just the eastern seaboard of North America, it's having to be shipped all the way to China before being shipped all the way back, right? So obviously there's carbon footprint issues. There's obviously a cost associated with this logistic movement. But thirdly, from a political perspective, we're seeing a very strong geopolitical shift as America looks to decouple away from China. Now, we've seen that recently over the course of the last 2 years with about 12 to about a dozen companies now being asked, or Chinese companies being asked to divest from well, not Quebec, Ontario, Manitoba projects, as China is decoupled from Canada and the US. Now, this is a very strong geopolitical tailwind currently underway to really onshore that battery supply chain within North America. This, by and large, Stuart, is the lithium conversion gap. Right, there's currently no lithium converters for spodumene, and there's only about 100,000 tonnes planned to be in production by 2028. So we see this as a very great opportunity for the company to exploit, obviously given the larger macro strategy. So the company, Stuart, obviously is Lithium Universe Limited, committed to building a lithium future and closing this lithium conversion gap. The big problems with closing this gap is the reality that it's a very complex chemical process, one that has been difficult to recreate outside China over the last 10 years. We've seen failures in Canada and now recently in Australia with the troubled Western Australian lithium conversion industry. And these are existing producers. So for us, what it boils down to is quite simple. It's proven technology and experienced operators. Now, one of those experienced operators, Stuart, is our chairman, Iggy Tan. He's been in the lithium industry for close to 30 years. He started his time back in 1995 having commissioned the lithium carbonate plant for Greenbushes before moving on to spearhead Galaxy Resources. At Galaxy, Iggy built the first mine to refinery project, including the Mount Cattlin spodumene mine, rated 140,000 tonne. Then the Jiangsu lithium carbonate plant in China. Iggy took Galaxy as managing director from $10 million market cap to it was merged with Orocobre at $2.5 billion in 2013. Now, also on the board, we've got Pat Scallon. Now, Pat Scallon is considered to be lithium royalty. He started and finished his time at Greenbushes. He led the project there for 25 years. Greenbushes, as you know, Stuart, is the largest and highest grade operational spodumene mine in the world. He also took that plant from 200,000 tonne to 1.4 million tonne per annum during his tenure. So a very, very focused lithium skill set. We've also got Jingwan Liu. Now, Dr. Liu is considered to be the international expert for lithium conversion, whether that be hydroxide or carbonate. Jingwan has built projects. He built the Jiangsu project with Iggy and John Loxton, but also has consulted as a specialist technical advisor to over 25 different conversion designs and operations throughout China, Asia, Europe, and North America. We've all seen this now, but this is the 1992 Dream Team, Stuart. If that's the Dream Team, this is the Lithium Dream Team that we've compiled. So we've obviously got the three guys at the top, but also Terry Stark. Terry Stark, head of mining. He is ex-Galaxy, was really responsible for the acquisition of the James Bay project, also the Sal de Vida brine project in Argentina. And we've also got Roger Pova. Roger Pova is a plant operational specialist across both Greenbushes and Mount Cattlin. We've got John Loxton. John Loxton, ex-Hatch. He built Jiangsu as construction manager with Jingwan and Iggy Tan. And John Soboleski, the gentleman who financed both projects. So typical lithium mine development or mine development across resources typically takes about 8 to 10 years. They go through scoping, PFS, DFS, and try to get construction done in 18 months. Now, when Iggy and the team built the Mount Cattlin project, it was just done in 3 years, skipping PFS and scoping and going straight to DFS. Now, this is a good display of the company's personnel track record. Now, what we see downstream is quite an interesting story, as I alluded to earlier. We've seen an interesting story currently being played out in Western Australia. We've got the Tianqi Kwinana plant, which is obviously an existing lithium or chemical producer, and Albemarle, similarly, one of the biggest companies, if not the biggest lithium company in the world. Now, struggling to build and commission these plants. The Kwinana plant has had a huge capital cost blowout, almost double what they planned, and huge schedule delays. Similarly with Kemerton, what we believe is still struggling to get up to design rate. And now they're having to fly in Chinese operators to fix the plant after it's being built. So provides a little bit of context around this challenge around the conversion industry. And we've seen the same thing in North America, right? We've seen North America Lithium, now that project's now owned by Sayona. It produced a touch over 100 tonne back in 2014 and has been really sort of mothballed for the last decade. Now, we've also got Nemaska Lithium. Nemaska 1 was a schedule, budget and design failure. Now, after, I suppose, a huge restructure, now coming back to build the Whabouchi and the Nemaska plant at Bécancour. So by and large, why have these projects failed? Well, from our point of view, having all of our obviously embedded experience and expertise within this particular sector, we believe it's a reality around not having operational maintenance and commissioning experience actually tucked in and embedded within the design stage. This is a key to making sure that the operation is actually functional rather than fixing it when it becomes an issue in the future. So that's why we've assembled this very large team of what is being put to me as a high concentration lithium expertise. So this is why we have a lithium dream team of operators. And in further to the track record of the team, when Iggy, Jingwan, and John Loxton built the Jiangsu project, it didn't take 5 years and 18 months of commissioning. It took 2 years, including 6 months of wet commissioning. Now, the Jiangsu plant still to this day is producing some of the highest grade lithium carbonate worldwide. And when it was built, to display how early on Iggy was to the lithium industry, when it was built, it actually doubled the whole conversion capacity of China at the time. Now, still to this day, and what we saw in China a few weeks ago is that elements of the design that was put in at Jiangsu have been replicated all throughout China. It's a Western style plant designed to Australian and international standard. It's semi-autonomous, and most importantly, it's fully continuous, right? So it can be adapted to Western environments quite easily. Now, there's no surprises here, Stuart. We're building a refinery, right? We see the conversion gap as the most compelling position to put the company in, given our very proven track record. Now, we're going to build something very similar to the Jiangsu design. We're going to bring in those design elements into the one plant at Bécancour, and essentially all we need to do is winterize the design itself, the footprint, and bring it up to provincial standards. So quite an easy transition over to Quebec. And most importantly, we're going to be able to handle all spodumene types from around the world. We're not going to be tied to just one resource. Now, this is a key, right? So as we wait for James Bay to come online, a few of these, 8 or 9 distinct projects, we will have the ability to bring in that via the international logistic routes. So we've obviously partnered with Hatch. Hatch, they built the Jiangsu plant with Iggy and Jingwan. There's an embedded and existing relationship there. We started that probably about 9 months ago, and that's tracking very well for completion by the end of the year. Now, we get a lot of questions around lithium carbonate versus hydroxide. A lot of the trend over the last 4 or 5 years has been towards hydroxide globally. But what we're seeing is a bit of a trend shift, right? In China, just about 70% of all EV installations last year were LFP batteries. Now, lithium carbonate is the precursor lithium chemical that goes into LFP, not hydroxide. So hydroxide typically goes into the lithium ion or NMC batteries. So we're seeing this big push towards LFP or lithium iron phosphate batteries, not only in the EV market, but also what Fast Markets predicted in the next decade, it's going to probably take about 87% of all energy storage system markets as well. So there's going to be a huge push towards LFP because it's more cost effective and it's safer. So we've seen this also, an indication of this in our recent trip to China. When we talk to a lot of these different converters across many different provinces, their expansion or strategic strategy was not to expand into hydroxide, but really to expand or put in a carbonate leg of their plant. So their shift is really towards lithium carbonate to really meet that demand in China, and we see that coming over to Europe and also within into the North American market. So as I said, we've situated ourselves at Bécancour. Bécancour is an existing industrial estate. It's got railway access all the way up to close to the James Bay region, highway access obviously, and port facility. This is very important for us. Our port facility provides us the ability to bring that in via the ship. Now we've got capacity at Lot 22, 27 hectare block, to put about 3 different trains, so a total capacity of just under 50,000 tonne per annum. So we'll start with one phase, one train, but we will be able to bring in a greater amount of technical expertise to really expand that to 3 trains. Now, in terms of the route, what you can see here is that at the Bécancour lithium refinery, we can actually bring in ships via the the St. Lawrence to the Atlantic region. Now, this opens the company up to accepting feedstock from a number of different sources, as I said, across West Africa, Brazil, even South Africa. So this, I suppose, fills the supply gap that we're waiting for to come online within the James Bay region. Now, for us, the flow sheet is published and it's very much similar to the Jiangsu design. What you can see here, Stuart, the spodumene comes in and is preheated, right? This is when, if you see the big picture or the video previously of Jiangsu, the big rotary kiln, this is typically 50 to 60 meters long, 1.5 to 2 meters in diameter, refractory lined, and this essentially cooks the spodumene from alpha to beta through the process. And essentially the analogy that our chairman uses is it pops like popcorn, and it gives us the ability to then leach it with sulfuric acid. So we go through sulfation. This is where the sulfuric acid is cooked to 25 degrees with the spodumene before going through the impurity removal. So we'll obviously, this is a conventional process where we'll remove iron, magnesium and calcium within the impurity circuit before going on to a smaller or more finite level to remove it also at ion level through the ion exchange. Now, this is the stage where the magic happens, I suppose, and the sodium carbonate is put down into the liquor and it precipitates lithium carbonate. And the back end is a crystallization and micronization step with, importantly, a bubbling CO2 at the back end to ensure we get rid of the remnant sulfides within the circuit to get that battery grade purity. So here you can see, the footprint that we've released to market. This is to encapsulate the whole plant within the one building. This is part of the winterization aspect. And as you can see here, what we've done is we've tucked it in so it's very, very tight, taking into consideration operational and maintenance integration issues. So it's essentially a figure-8 type of scenario where the spodumene comes in, goes through all of the different steps that I walked through before going into 2 separate areas. So this is all contained within one building to really mitigate that winterization issue. So what we've done to date, we've initiated a study out of Lithium University in China. This study really looked to not validate the process flow as it stands, but really validate to stakeholders and potential partners that we can process any type of spodumene from around the world. So what we've done is we've grabbed spodumene from Australia, from Africa, from Brazil in South America, and then also in Canada, some of the most impurity-rich spodumene to display to the market that we can process anything. And what we've seen is all programs to date have achieved 99.7, so above battery grade of 99.5. Now, our conversion model and our business model, Stuart, is very, very simple. It's going to be teaming up with OEMs that potentially already have offtake or are looking to really secure their supply chain. And in this period of price volatility, what these OEMs really need is security of supply chain and stability of price, and also the decoupling from China. So essentially, it's a take or pay conversion model, and it really, I suppose, mitigates that market risk or a lot of that market risk for a lot of these OEMs. So essentially, what we're doing is we're becoming part of these OEM supply chains, and the only reason this can really be made, happening in Quebec is the reality around the hydroelectricity. In Quebec, it's just a touch over 2.5 cents or 2.6 cents here, which is a far cry from the about 10 times in Australia and potentially 10 times in the US as well. So this is a competitive edge in which Quebec can really, I suppose, compete with China in operational expenses, which is obviously the I suppose, the big anchor into the financial model. So the hydroelectricity is a big bonus for Quebec in really becoming not only just a one plant or two plant type province, but really be the potential center of conversion for the transatlantic region. So we've obviously done a lot of work, Stuart, but also in the field at Lot 22. We've obviously made our hydro application to Hydro-Quebec some sort of 3 or 4 months ago for a 20 megawatt of energy block. We've done some environmental surveys with no issues. Similarly, we've done a lot of First Nation engagement, as well as contamination and pre-baseline type work. So the wheels are in motion. It has different permitting requirements to that of obviously a mine being an existing industrial estate. So we look to obviously complete that over the course of the next year. So this is the timelines that we're working to at the moment. And all things going well, initial assessment of the block itself on all these different attributes is very positive. So in summary, Stuart, we've obviously got a proven track record in lithium, essentially an expertise that is quite hard to come by. We've obviously got proven technology in the very proven Jiangsu design, and de-risking a lot of that spodumene conversion within North America. And finally, we've positioned ourselves at what we believe as the greatest position in the transatlantic region, right on the doorstep of James Bay at Bécancour. So, Stuart, I think you can join us on the mission to the galaxy.
Alex, fantastic presentation. Thank you for the insight and being so open. As a company, you've been really open about the company's strategy from day one. How do you feel this has evolved, and is there much scope for growth?
Oh, absolutely. So, what we're trying to do here is really lay the foundations of the future conversion capacity in North America. Once we have, I suppose, one design, what we're working on at the moment, we actually have the ability to then essentially copy paste or cookie cutter that across the North American landscape and elsewhere potentially if the justification and the operational model does line up. So this is the first step of a very large picture, not only to go potentially integrate horizontally, but also obviously vertically as well, and go and potentially partner with potential mines in the future. For us, the conversion model, as we put it, is the fastest way to cash flow.
And you clearly, as a company, you've got such a great team behind you, a lot of experience, a lot of success stories. But Alex Hanley, who's Alex Hanley?
Mate, I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked on numerous chemical processes in Mount Isa and the wider region. I worked on mining projects down in Adelaide. I worked on manufacturing projects in North Queensland and oil and gas also within Brisbane or the Surat Basin. So I've got a very, I suppose, broad skill set across many different industries, working for a lot of the different tier one companies. And so what that provides me is a very good project management skill set, having obviously worked with a lot of these different companies in many different industries. So now I have the benefit of having this very good business case, the lithium conversion gap, and a very strong team that I have full access to, right, to draw on from a technical perspective. So really, as a project manager, Stuart, I'm in a sweet spot where I've got everything I need in order to deliver the project at hand.
And the company has a lot of travel over recent months. Recently to China, we've surveyed lithium refineries and now heading to Canada to meet some important stakeholders. Tell us about these recent trips and the purpose.
Yeah, so I was probably on the road for about 2.5 months, I think. But most recently, we got the board, so Iggy Tan, Jingwan, and Pat Scullin over to Quebec. This was very important. Obviously, I've been working quite heavily in Canada for the last, well, since we listed in August, so almost a year. So it was very important for them to meet a lot of the same stakeholders that I've been talking to for the last 12 months. And what we look to engage with is local, right? provincial and federal government, and that's something that we've been working on for some time. We've also obviously engaged with the SPIB quite heavily. The SPIB obviously being the Bécancour industrial estate that we've signed the option with, who are very welcoming of the project, obviously with the title of being the next Battery Valley. Now, in addition to that, we've obviously engaged with the Hatch office. That was very important for us. The Hatch Montreal office in particular, it was really great to integrate our strategy and our philosophies within the Montreal office to really understand, Iggy and Jingwan and Pat's fast track vision, right? And integrate that into the work that they're doing for us from a ground perspective. Now, we've obviously, integrated the Brisbane team quite heavily. The Brisbane team are, considered to be the design lithium experts for conversion, and they've been obviously, very much across the company's dynamic for some time. So these, all these sort of pieces of the puzzle were put into place. We met with Minister Fitzgibbon in Quebec also. This is the second time we've met with Minister Fitzgibbon. He's the Minister for Energy, Economics and Innovation. So he's obviously the man we need to talk to from a provincial level. And he really has been the trailblazer within Quebec to really build up the not only the lithium industry, but the battery technology and the battery industry as it stands today. So, it was a very broad, very busy trip. I think we were in 5 different cities in 5 days. So there was a very concentrated trip with a lot of good insights and takeaways.
Why meet with the government stakeholders so soon?
This is really part of the fast track strategy. We're doing everything in parallel. Now, we don't want to sort of finish the definitive feasibility by the end of the year, then start the stakeholder engagement process. Where obviously, well, as I said, I've been talking to the provincial level with Investissement Quebec and now Invest in Canada, the federal arm, for the last 9 to 12 months. So this is part of us, essentially warming them up, getting them really familiar with our story and who we are and how we operate, getting a look under the bonnet early so that when the time does come in the very near future, that it's really a very quick decision for them.
And one thing, we had a conversation a couple of months ago, and you mentioned surrounding feedstock and offtake discussions. How are those conversations going?
Yeah, ongoing. We've been approached by a few different OEMs, which has been quite probably surprising. I think we've been talking to a few different players and also advisors, and they said build and they will come, right? But obviously, being a company that will require financing quite soon in the near future for this large project, we want to line up that feedstock and offtake very soon. So we've been talking to all the OEMs, so car manufacturers, battery technology companies, to really, I suppose, pitch what we're doing, where we see the big gap, and quite frankly, it's a very well-known gap, right? Everyone knows the monopoly that China currently have on the lithium conversion space. So by bringing in a different space with the preferred feedstock of spodumene, we're providing a different aspect and really a point of difference in the market. So a lot of those discussions, we've had to start a register to make sure we can keep track of all these discussions. So they're ongoing, and we hope to really sort of similarly tie that up in parallel with not only the government stakeholder engagement, but also the DFS by the end of the year. So there's a lot of things happening at the moment.
How much would it cost to get a production plant built?
We've got a lot of good metrics at the moment. Obviously, we don't have the data on what our Jiangsu plant's going to cost. But typically, what you can see with similar studies done in Australia and Europe and North America is for the same size or type of refinery, you can see 500 to 600 million US for the same type of plant built outside of China, and this is obviously due to new technologies, right? There's going to be a high concentration of labor force or workforce competitiveness within North America with all of this infrastructure getting built out. So that's why we're looking at a few different angles, right? And we've obviously released an announcement surrounding our procurement strategy around the same equipment, same supplier. This is really, I suppose, wrapping up our philosophy of not changing anything. And by relying on potential outside sources to fabricate and manufacture some of this equipment, we're not obviously we're not exposed to that highly concentrated demand currently underway in the US and Canada.
And the market's been down across the board for some time, not just in the lithium space. But what do you feel the catalyst now of progression and improvement, in the sector?
I think it probably comes down to one things I mentioned about the relationship with the OEM. It comes down to price stability, right? Now there's probably a lack of real understanding within the industry over the last couple of years around what the demand will actually be to get a lot of these EV or new EV lines for all these different OEMs or EV manufacturers. Now that obviously, I believe pre-educated the real push, in the lithium spike. But I think, moving forward, a lot of the OEMs and car manufacturers, as we've had the conversation, are really looking for price stability, right? So that's their real, I suppose, pain point at the moment. They don't want to be exposed to high price movements and high volatility. They're looking for partners not only at the mine level, but also, as the North Americans call it, the midstream within the conversion, to really, I suppose, decouple from China, decouple from volatility. So I think moving forward, Stewie, that's going to be the big push is building out partnerships within each of the supply chains across all different minerals within the EV space itself.
Alex, thank you for your time today. That's all that's come in. You've got some amazing stuff on the horizon and doing a fantastic job leading the company. For anybody interested, there's more information about Lithium Universe. You head to the company website, lithiumuniverse.com. You can join up to the company's investor hub, or you can follow the company on their social media platforms. I wish to thank all the attendees for attending. Thank you for your questions coming in. If there is a company that you would like to hear from, please reach out to me, stuart@marketopen.com.au. But until next time, thank you very much, and we'll speak soon.